Magandang hapon po mga kababayan. Kayo'y nakikinig dito lamang sa Radyo Migrante. Ako po si Waynes, kasama nyo sa kwentuhan at sa pagseserbisyo sa bayan.
Ako naman po si Julie, bumabati ng isang mapagpalayang tanghali sa inyong lahat, lalong-lalo na sa ating masisipag, masisikap at mapagmahal na mga migranteng manggagawa sa bawat sulok ng mundo.
Kamusta mga ka-RadMig? Ito si Tita Clau, nakikisawsaw sa mga ganap at issue na mahalaga sa ating mga kababayan. Welcome po sa Toronto's Best Filipino Community Radio Show.
Samahan nyo kami sa ating episode 34 ngayong November 5, 2023. Napaka-espesyal ng episode na ito mga ka-RadMig. Ito po ang ating birthday month. So 16 years na po tayo on air. Kaya halina't samahan niyo po kami as we take a trip back to memory lane and commemorate those who contributed to Radyo Migrante's continuing growth and service to our migrant community.
So today we will talk about this week's top news dito sa Canada at sa Pilipinas. Mapakikinggan din natin ang tulang to a Sojourner on Cordillera Day na isinulat at binigkas ni Petronila Cleto o TITA PET.
At syempre, hindi po matatapos ang ating episode kung wala ang Pinoy TaU segment kung saan mapakikinggan natin ang kwentuhan with past Radyo Migrante producers and hosts Rhea Gamana and Lesley Valiente. Hindi rin makukumpleto ang ating episode kung wala tayong current and latest community listings sa GTA.
Ang dami pala natin mapag-uusapan ulit this week. So simulan na natin mga ka-RadMig para sa ating top 3 news this week. Para sa unang balita, from CNN Philippines. Philippines abstains from United Nations call for humanitarian truce in Israel-Hamas war. Ang gobyerno ng Pilipinas ay nagpasya na umiwas sa panawagan ng United Nations na magbigay ng isang quote-unquote immediate humanitarian truce sa pagitan nito ng Israel at militanteng grupong Hamas. Pinuna ng Pangulo ng bagong alyansang makabayan na si Renato Reyes Jr. ang desisyon ng Pilipinas na mag-abstain sa UN voting. Sabi niya ito ay quote-unquote utterly shameful and that quote-unquote neutrality in the time of genocide is unacceptable. Hinangad ng UN General Assembly na magkaroon ng tuloy-tuloy, sapat at walang hadlang na paghahatid ng mga supply at serbisyo para sa mga taong kasakalukuyang nakulong sa Gaza.
Yung mga member states ng UN na nag-abstain or voted against this resolution for immediate humanitarian truce ay syempre US, Israel, Austria. Samantalang kung tutuusin as a member state of the UN, it is your obligation to uphold international humanitarian law. Itaguyod ang makataong batas. Pero ang nakikita natin ngayon ay ganap na kabaliktaran ang genocide ng Palestine na actively complicit ang US dito. Aktibong nakikibahagi ang Israel at aminado sila dito ha. It is on public record. Ika nga ni Craig Mokhiber, siya yung New York Director of the United Nations Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights na nag-resign dahil sabi niya that, quote-unquote, the UN is failing again in bringing peace to Palestine and exacting accountability for the murder and persecution against the Palestinians throughout the entire life of the UN.
Ayun, at alam mo tinitignan ko rin ito kasi inahanap ko rin itong dahilan kung bakit ang Israel ay nakapagboto, no? Pero ang Palestine, to this day, kahit na nag-apply sila to be a full member of the United Nations, hanggang ngayon, lang sila, non-member observers. Kaya hindi sila nakaboto dito sa issue na ito kahit na it directly affects them. Pero ang Israel, nakaboto siya. So,
Hindi talaga patas.
Oo. So, importante ring tignan iyan. At para naman sa pangalawang balita from Alter Media, Bayan calls on Filipinos to stand with Palestinians. Ang pinakamalaking alyansa ng mga progresibong organisasyon ng bansa ay nananawagan sa mamamayang Pilipino na manindigan para sa Palestine sa pinakabagong aksyon ng genocide ng Israel. Sinabi ng bagong alyansang makabayan sa isang pahayag na mahigit 8,000 Palestinians, kasama na dito ang 3,500 na mga bata, ang namatay mula nang magsimula ang paggaganti ng Israel pagkatapos ng pag-atake sa kanila ng Hamas noong October 7. At it's important to note na itong mga numerong ito, it would be higher on the date of airing dahil about 300 deaths per day po ang bilang. Kaya po, mas mataas yung numero na yan by the day na mag-airing itong episode na ito. Sinabi ng Bayan na ang paglaban ng Palestinian ay katulad ng rebolusyong pinamunuan ng Katipunan laban sa kolonyalismong Espanyol o ang mga pakikibaka ni na Macario Sakay at General Antonio Luna laban sa kolonyalismo ng Amerika sa Pilipinas.
The fourth and largest batch of overseas Filipino workers from Israel arrived home, bringing the total number of repatriates to 119 since the October 7 attacks.
Nakikita natin na parami at patuloy ang mga protesta para sa panawagang ceasefire at Free Palestine. Kasama na dito ang mga Pilipino sa diaspora na nagtitipon sa pagkakaisa at alalang-alala sa kanilang mga kamag-anak na nasa Gaza. At alam nyo ba na ang Pilipinas ay ang third largest buyer of Israeli weapons? Kaya obvious naman bakit tayo nag-abstain sa vote sa United Nations General Assembly.
Ayan, at para naman sa pangatlo at huling balita, from Canada.ca. Changes to International Student Program aim to protect students. Ang Minister ng Immigration, Refugees at Citizenship or IRCC na si Mark Miller ay nag-announce ng mga plano na ipatupad ang ilang mga hakbang na naglalayong palakasin ang International Student Program ng Canada at mas protektahan daw ang mga estudyante mula sa panloloko. Kasama sa mga hakbang na ito ang una, simula sa Disyembre 1, ang Post-Secondary Designated Learning Institutions o DLI ay kakailanganing kumpirmahin ang bawat letter of acceptance ng aplikante ng direkta sa IRCC.
Kung natatandaan ninyo, noong June ay may mga international student dito sa Toronto na muntik lang ma-deport matapos may scam ng mga education recruiters na nagbigay sa kanila ng mga peking dokumento. Ano kaya sa tingin nyo? Makatutulong kaya itong mga bagong panukalan ng Canada para protektahan ang mga international student mula sa mga manloloko at mandarambong?
At saka, quick fact, alam nyo rin ba mga karadmig na ang international education accounts for more than $22 billion in economic activity annually, greater than Canada's exports of auto parts, lumber, or aircraft, and supports more than 200,000 jobs in Canada. The temporary drop in international students noong 2020 resulted in a loss of more than $7 billion for Canada's gross domestic product that year. O diba kaya talaga, big bucks yan.
Ayan, mga karadmig, patuloy po kayong nakikinig sa Radyo Migrante dito sa Toronto's Best Filipino Community Program, Vibe 105. Natungayan po ninyo ang mga balita at ngayon naman magbalik tanaw tayo sa kasaysayan at kultura ng Pilipinas.
Hello po ulit. Ako si Julie, bringing you today's segment of Ang Ating Kasaysayan. Tara, let's learn more about our history and remind ourselves that history is not just information about the past, because history is a way for us to learn more about our culture and to get to know more about ourselves as Filipinos. Since we are celebrating our 16th year in Radyo Migrante, let's learn more about RadMig's history. Kilala niyo ba ang The People's Auntie o ang Tita ng Bayan?
Oo, si Tita PET, wala nang iba.
Oo nga. Nalaman ko rin ng tungkol kay Tita PET noong last year when I was trying to learn more about Radyo Migrante's history. Pero sige, share naman ng ano pa ba ang pwede nating malaman tungkol kay Tita PET.
Yeah, correct kayo dyan. Ang tinaguriang People's Auntie ay walang iba kundi si Petronila Cleto. Many called her a revolutionary woman, a human rights advocate, a film writer, and a journalist. Pero most people knew her as Tita ng Bayan. Bago nag-migrate sa Canada, inilaan ni Tita PET ang kanyang oras sa pakikibaka ng kababaihan sa Pilipinas. Bilang isang kabataang babae, tumulong siya sa pagtatatag ng Gabriela Philippines noong 1984. at tumulong rin sa pagtatatag at pamumuno sa mga organization na lumalaban against martial law sa Pilipinas tulad ng WOMB o Women for the Ouster of Marcos and Boycott at ng Concerned Mothers League, pati na ng Kaiba, ang unang partidong pampolitika sa bansa. Later on in 1989, siya ay naging board member ng Women's Crisis Center, isang organization na nagbibigay ng mga serbisyo para sa mga kababaihang biktima ng karahasan na batay sa kasarian. Although Tita Pet migrated, or let's say self-exiled to Canada, patuloy siyang nag-ambag sa kilusan at sa pakikibaka ng kababaihan by organizing with Montreal's International Women's Alliance and Gabriela Ontario. Nanguna sa mga kampanya para sa mga karapatan ng mga migranteng manggagawa, lalo na ng mga kababaihang Pilipino, and to end discriminatory practices and laws in Canada. Tita Pet was part of the organizing committee for the Montreal International Women's Conference in 2010. The conference that founded the International Women's Alliance o IWA. Si Tita Pet ay hindi lamang lumahok sa mga debate sa politika during the conference, but she warmly welcomed women activists and conference participants sa pamamagitan ng pagbibigay sa kanila ng kinakailangang logistical guidance and support. Her work as a writer and journalist helped in publicizing the conference and the issues of women as she patiently reached out to friends in the media and the press industry. She provided guidance to young activists by sharing her experience and lessons learned from her decades of activism in the Philippines and in Canada. Sa kabila ng pagiging isang batikang aktivista, aktibo siyang lumahok sa mga talakayang pang-edukasyon at ipinakita ang kanyang willingness na makinig at matuto mula sa mga nakababatang aktivista. Tita Pet was integral in contributing to the Filipino-Canadian journalism landscape. She was a journalist for the Philippine Reporter and Radyo Migrante. During her time as a broadcaster, Radyo Migrante won an honorable mention from the National Campus and Community Radio Association in 2014. And as a community broadcaster, she also received the 2016 J.S. Woodsworth Award for Human Rights and Equity. She edited 2 volumes of Akdaan Literary Anthology, compiling the works of Filipino writers in exile. We unexpectedly lost Tita Pet in December 2017. But her revolutionary spirit continues to live with all the friends and community she has known and built, and in Radyo Migrante. Para sa progresibong balita at pagbabago, mabuhay ka, Tita Pet!
Mabuhay ka, Tita Pet, at maraming salamat sa iyong serbisyo sa ating mga kababayan.
At yan ang ating kasaysayan. Did you learn something new about our history? Share nyo yan sa aming Facebook page. Hanapin lang ang Radyo Migrante and join us again next week para sa marami pang pag-aaral ng ating history.
Patuloy po kayong nakikinig sa Radyo Migrante dito sa Toronto's Best Filipino Community Program, Vibe 105. Maraming salamat, Tita Julie. At para sa susunod na segment, lumubog tayo sa ating kulturang Pilipino.
Ngayon naman para sa kulturang Pilipino, ako si Tita Clau. Nais nyo bang makadiskubre ng makabuluhang kanta at tula mula sa iba't ibang musikero at makata? Ang segment na ito ay magsisilbing espasyo para sa iba't ibang pagtatanghal ng mga talento ng ating kababayang Pilipino. Handog namin ngayong linggo ang tulang pinamagatang To a Sojourner on Cordillera Day ni Petronila Cleto o Tita Pet. Ang tulang ito ay isinulat ni Tita Pet at inialay para sa ating mga tagapag-alaga at mga migranteng manggagawa sa Canada.
To a Sojourner on Cordillera Day. In the subway, it is darker and later than the afternoon. We sit across each other with an angle of limp light which we bridge and on it we meet. Across layers of silences you know very well, so well that their keenly embroidered fabrics soothe you, even in the wind-ruled deserts of your sleep. So well that their ancient colors descend from the mountain peaks where memory began to your trees and fibrous body, shaped and spent from the day's work. And also because you have often had no choice but look from dust to windows where you and pain have perched together like able sojourners to gaze at the wind-borne currents and tides. Across these layers and dust to windows, you can look at me, your sister now, and with eyes declare that somehow signals are clear. You don't look away. And so my eager memory sketches you, who are also a welcome stranger, who have found joy in being human through another's non-foreign eyes, non-foreign face, non-foreign hands, non-foreign body. You who can dive into the deep inside the eyes. Your daughter looks up from her slumber, one eye wondering at my look, but the other lost in her own deserts of aloneness, of strangeness. She must be told. There are heroes who shine with steadfast beauty, who have conquered the cliffs and parched lands, wrested victory away from the scornful winds of change. They are mirrors to the inner truth that the strong heart's greatness transcends man-made terrors and disasters. We know we consider her future. As we look into each other's lives, we know there are enormous roots greater than us, entangling us, reaching out for our blood, for the stems and buds of our integrity. But we know their stranglehold grows weaker as ancient spirits grow in wisdom together. Yes, even here, where the city has jungles strewn with sharp and cruel teeth of modern lies. And so we cannot go each her way, weeping, beating drums dolorously into the distance. We will use sturdy bridges of truth to cross all distances and abysses. Prepare the soil, very like our ancients, and build terraces to protect the land where a new and greater world will grow.
Muli ako si Tita Clau, lagi niyong maasahan na maghahandog ng makabuluhang musika, tula at marami pang iba na nagdidiwang ng kulturang Pilipino dito lang sa Radyo Migrante 105.5 FM.
Huwag kayong aalis mga kababayan. Makakasama natin ang mga dating host and producers of Radyo Migrante na sina Rhea Gamana at Lesley Valiente at pag-uusapan natin ang papel ng malayang pamamahayag sa ating lipunan. Magpapatuloy po ito after the break. Ayan, ako po ang inyong host, si Waynes, para sa ating Pinoy TaU segment o Pinoy Talakayan at Usapan. Dito natin mapakikinggan ang talambuhay ng ating mga kababayan na migrant workers, international students at iba pa. Halina't pakinggan natin ang fresh na perspectives ng ating mga kababayang Pilipino. Mapapakinggan natin ngayong linggo ang kwentuhan kasama ang ating Pioneer Radyo Migrante host and producer, Lesley Valiente Reyes. Pakinggan po natin.
At ayan, maraming salamat. Welcome to our Pinoy TaU segment. Dito kasama po natin with this very special episode, makakasama natin ang mga dating hosts and producers of Radyo Migrante to celebrate our 16 years of service to the Filipino migrant community in Toronto and across the GTA. So first of all, welcome po Radyo Migrante, Rhea Gamana and Lesley Valiente. Pakalala niyo po ang sarili niyo when you were a host or producer for Radyo Migrante. So I guess Lesley.
Ako po si Lesley, and I was born and raised here in Canada. My parents migrated here in the 80s through caregiver program, and then my dad was sponsored, and I grew up here in Canada, sort of cut off from the Filipino community, but when I graduated from university, I started getting in touch with the Filipino community, which included Bayan, Toronto, which was just starting off, and then also Radyo Migrante. I was sort of like a maybe guest host or like part-time host between 2015 and 2016, and I had a good time doing it. I learned a lot during that time.
Thanks, Lesley. And you said 2015. So how long were you a part of Radyo Migrante from 2015 until
2016 probably.
Nice.
1-2 years.
Galing. Thank you so much. As we said, yung tema po ng episode nito is to celebrate Radyo Migrante's 16 years. So if babalikan po natin kung paano umuspong ang Radyo Migrante, why was it necessary to have a radio show for migrantes or for migrants?
I think about how important it was for Radyo Migrante to exist because it represents a huge part of society, of people in our society. Like, we can see that there are lots of Filipinos here in Canada, and we know that thousands of Filipinos are leaving the Philippines every day. They go and try to find work abroad, so a lot of people might not easily know that connection, that people are here because of certain issues that are going on back home. And Radyo Migrante gave an opportunity to highlight both issues that are happening in the Philippines that are causing people to leave, and then also the issues here that are affecting those migrants who took that risk to leave their families behind and look for work abroad. So it was important for this to exist because it sheds light on a particularly oppressed portion of our society, very hardworking people who are working multiple jobs just for the survival of their families. And I think it's very important that we were able to highlight their voices and their stories and their concerns. And also the fact that the format was a radio show, alternative radio show. This is prior to the days of podcasting. Like, it's so prevalent now, and it's very easy to create a podcast and share these kinds of stories. But back then, that didn't really exist, and an alternative radio show was a very welcome format for us. And I think what it did, like, this was something that required work. Like, I'm sure it does now. We had to show up in person at a radio station. We were live. We went live at 12:50 p.m. I remember we have to arrive at like 11 a.m. on a Sunday, every Sunday, just to get ready and be ready to go on airtime. And we would be live, and you can't have dead air, so you had to have scripts and content recorded and edited and ready to go. So I think like the work that we were doing provided a lot of credibility to the issues that we were trying to highlight and to the population that we were trying to highlight.
Thanks, Ate Lesley. Yeah, you highlighted both very important things of, the radio show being providing news to who it matters the most. Our communities, who are in marginalized communities. It also exists to highlight, alternative news back home at dito din sa Canada, at nakikita natin that the radio is a format that is accessible to all. I know it's shifting now, just compared to the way that we're even interviewing you right now. Like ibang-iba. Now we're online. So how different was that from like back then till now? But as Ate Lesley said, that we continue to exist because of the people. So many thank yous. Pangalawang question naman po natin. So based on your time in Radyo Migrante, balik tanaw po tayo sa mga success and highlights ng panahon ninyo as a host sa Radyo Migrante. Ano ang mga naitagpumpay ng Radyo Migrante para sa Filipino migrant community dito sa Toronto?
I was in Radyo Migrante Collective for a very short period of time. So I haven't been actively present for as long a time as Aterea, but one of the things that I was able to witness was receiving the award, the annual J.S. Woodsworth Award from the office of NDP leader Andrea Horwath. The J.S. Woodsworth Awards are given to individuals and groups that are actively trying to eliminate racism, and I think that it was an honor to be recognized by their office, because it just shows that by us presenting our stories and our narratives of Filipino migrants and immigrants, we are contributing value to Canadian society here by sharing our stories of where we come from and what we experience when we're here. So that was an honor to receive. Maybe I could speak to personal successes, at least, that I experienced as one of the hosts of Radyo Migrante, in my role as sort of like a guest host. I was able to participate a few times a month, and this helped me individually as I was trying to overcome shyness. It forced me to come out of my comfort zone. It helped me learn about some broadcasting and technical skills related to hosting a radio show that wouldn't normally be available to me. And I think the most important was that it helped me connect to the issues back home, because we were doing interviews with guests from the Philippines and from here, and we were able to see talk about different issues like the pork barrel issue, about the killing of Lumads in Mindanao, militarization of different communities, and seeing how it still has an impact on OFWs. Even though we're not physically there, there's still an impact when you're out of the country. So I think that's my own reflection on sort of like my personal successes being part of the Radyo Migrante Collective and what I was able to learn from that experience.
Maraming salamat, Ate Lesley. Yeah, I guess like even in personal successes is also contributing to you as a community leader for Filipino communities sa Toronto. So thank you for sharing your reflections. We'll go to our third question, which speaks more about challenges. And for our third question, sa current times, nakikita po natin how important the media plays a role in our communities to stay informed. Especially ngayon, nakikita na journalists that speak out on the truth face different harms or dangers from speaking out that are perpetuated by the state. So did you as a journalist face certain challenges while airing, or despite threats that are happening, that are getting thrown journalists' way in the Philippines? Why is it important to continue to cover the news in the Philippines and also here in Canada?
It is very sad to see journalists being harassed, being disappeared, being tortured, because they're just trying to shed light on what's going on the ground. Fortunately for myself, I didn't experience that kind of harassment, but that did, my time was prior to the declaration of anti-terror law by Duterte, which continues to be in effect now. It's very undemocratic. And so I was fortunate to not have been persecuted the way that journalists are today. But I think it's my message to Radyo Migrante Collective and other journalists is to continue to do continue to perform your role as a journalist. It is so important to have a voice and to speak out, because what's normally portrayed in mainstream media is biased. It tends to be biased. It tends to portray one side of the story. And it's really important to make sure that the narrative of the marginalized sector is brought into the light and is highlighted. It's also very important to speak out in these really difficult times and upon really controversial issues. It's very important to have a voice and to take a stand. It's not possible to be neutral. It's not possible to not have a side, because even saying nothing is saying something. Being silent favors one side over the other. It favors the side of the oppressor. So continue to do the work that you're doing. It's very important. So I think in the face of harassment, in the face of red tagging, I think it's even more important to continue to do the work that is being done. Continue to be the voice that exposes what is truly happening on the ground in the Philippines and in Canada, because I think these experiences are they're undeniable and need to be shared. It's easy for misinformation to spread nowadays really quickly through social media, but I think that when you focus on the experience that people have, the real life concrete experience about not being able to afford rent, or not being able to afford food for their families, and having to make that difficult choice to be separated from your loved ones, or make a difficult choice to become undocumented. There's a lot of things that people are forced to do in our society in order to survive, and I think that it's so important for journalists to continue to share those stories.
Thanks, Ate Lesley, to share, especially in light of the red tagging, but also what's happening also in Palestine as well. And you're right, talagang it's so important for us to shed light, to highlight these stories of our communities, of different voices, and advocate for a better world. So thank you, Ate Lesley. I had a last question. This is more about dreaming big and kind of wrapping up. Kung meron po kayong mensahe sa ating mga tagapakinig, may message or advice ba kayo mabibigay to our listeners first, and then I'll ask the second question after.
Okay, I think thank you for listening to Radyo Migrante. Thank you for supporting this collective for the past 16 years. It's very important to have these listeners, and because without you, there is no us, there is no Radyo Migrante. So continue to support, continue to share this show with your friends, and not just listen, I would say talk about it. It's you might be able to share this with friends and family and say, hey, listen to this issue that was being discussed in the news, and let's have a conversation about it. What is it that you think? And I think it's really important to be having conversations, especially when they might be difficult sometimes.
Yes, definitely. Thank you, Ate Lesley. And my last question is, do you have a message para sa bagong group of Radyo Migrante members who are, taking on the torch to move on to the next 16 years?
I just have to say, you are doing such a wonderful job. The quality of the show has really grown and has really improved over the years, and I can see that you are putting in so much hard work. So thank you so much for everything that you're doing. Thank you for continuing to keep the show alive. And I would say some advice. Hopefully you are doing this, like, have fun. Have fun while you do this. It's hard work, but it is rewarding work, and it's very important that you continue to have fun while you're doing this. From what I can see as an outsider, you have a very strong collective, and I think it's really good to foster that. But also think about growing your collective. Think about how you can use this show and this experience to help others grow and help involve other people.
Thank you so much for your warm and uplifting words. Thank you also for contributing to Radyo Migrante. Without you, there is also no us. So maraming salamat, Ate Lesley, and thank you again. I can't thank you enough. To 16 more years times 16 more. And maraming salamat sa pagbabahagi ninyong kaalaman at karanasan bilang isang Radyo Migrante member. At dyan po nagtatapos ang aming interview. Maraming salamat sa pakikinig.
Maraming salamat sa patuloy na pagsubaybay sa ating Pinoy Talakayan at Usapan o Pinoy TaU. Maraming salamat, Lesley Valiente Reyes. Nakikinig kayo dito lamang sa Radyo Migrante ng Vibe 105.5 FM.
And to learn more from our past and future episodes, just check us out on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Spotify. Subscribe and follow us na rin para lagi kayong updated. Isulat nyo lang ang Radyo Migrante Toronto sa search bar. At syempre, to stay updated sa happening sa ating community, narito ang mga event at announcement. For our first event, Justice for Workers is inviting everyone to join their organizing meeting on November 7, 2023 at 6 to 8 p.m. sa Workers Action Center, Community Organizing Space, 720 Spadina Avenue, Toronto. Justice for Workers is a movement fighting for a $20 minimum wage, 10 paid sick days, increased social assistance rates, status for all, equal pay, and real protections for frontline workers, including gig workers, temporary agency workers, part-time workers, and casual workers. Don't miss this decent work organizing meeting. Let's keep up the fight. Doors open with refreshments at 5:30 p.m. The meeting starts at 6 p.m. For more information and to RSVP, visit justiceforworkers.org.
At sa November 8th, students across the province will be hitting the streets and demanding free and accessible education for all students. The Canadian Federation of Students, Ontario, is organizing a National Day of Action with rallies across the province, bringing together thousands of students united in their call for a publicly funded, free and accessible education system. Makirally po tayo sa November 8, Queen's Park, 110 Wellesley Street West at 2 p.m.
At sa November 8 din po, pero napakaaga, 7:45 a.m., there will be a protest in front of Scotiabank hosted by ILPS or International League of People's Struggle. Ito po ay to call for Scotiabank to stop funding the Israeli occupation forces in their ongoing oppression of the Palestinian people.
At sa huling announcement, starting in November, the University of the Philippines Alumni Association of Toronto, or UPAAT, in partnership with the Philippine Consulate General in Toronto, will hold workshops that aim to assist newcomers to overcome challenges in employment, education, and other aspects of settlement. Whether you are an international student, a temporary foreign worker, or a new immigrant, these workshops will provide you with valuable information on options, opportunities, and strategies for a smooth transition in starting a new life in Canada. The first workshop will be done via Zoom on Friday, November 17 at 6:30 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It will focus on trades and professions and how to get one's foreign credentials recognized. This is open to all. For more information, visit UPAA of Toronto on Facebook or email upaaexec@gmail.com.
Interesado ba kayo na maging bahagi ng Radyo Migrante? Halina't sumali sa Radyo Migrante Collective. There are open positions for new researchers, scriptwriters, interviewers, co-hosts, editors, and social media coordinators. Message nyo lang kami sa aming Instagram, Facebook, or email. Mahanap nyo kami as Radyo Migrante o Radyo Migrante Toronto.
At dito nagtatapos ang isa na namang makabuluhang episode ng Radyo Migrante. Ipagpapatuloy natin ang pagdiriwang ng ating 16 years on air as a community radio show next week. Makakasama natin ang iba pang mga dating host and producers and members of Radyo Migrante para sa isa na namang diskurso patungkol sa papel ng community radio shows sa pagpapatibay ng samahan ng ating mga kababayan sa diaspora at ang importansya ng malayang pamamahayag sa demokratikong lipunan. Salamat po.
Maraming salamat sa ating mga listeners sa pagtangkilik. Napakahalaga po ng suporta nyo sa ating community radio show. Kita-kits po tayo next week.
Muli, sana po ay marami kayong natutunan sa isang oras na pinagsaluhan natin. Please be kind to yourself and enjoy the rest of your day dahil bukas ay simula na naman ng hindi maiiwasang pagbabanat ng buto at ng patuloy na pakikipagsapalaran para sa ating mga mahal sa buhay na umaasa sa atin. Padayon mga karadmig para sa progresibong politika at pagbabago.
Sa tulong ng mga kababayan natin na bumubuo ng Radyo Migrante, kay Rhea Gamana at Lesley Valiente Reyes, kay Carl Ramirez para sa kanyang kantang Migranteng Pilipino, at higit sa lahat sa inyo pong mga nakikinig sa Radyo Migrante tuwing linggo mula 1:00 hanggang 2:00 ng hapon. Maraming salamat po. At para sa ating closing music, pakinggan po natin ang kantang isinulat ni Louie Queaño na Yan si Tita Pet na sinulat niya para sa 70th birthday ni Tita Pet. Ayan po ang ating closing music.
Ayan, hanggang sa susunod mga kababayan, muli, mabuhay po
Mabuhay po kayo at mabuhay
ang
Bayang Pilipinas!
Kahit anong gawin natin, di talaga siya magkakatugma. Pero good effort.
Mabuhay po kayo at mabuhay ang bayang Pilipinas!